Hello everybody, I am back, disoriented, dehydrated, and ready to talk about more RPGs. My whole thing as a YouTuber is that I talk about obscure RPGs, and I quite like my position in the world as simply that. But I think I went a bit too far this time because I have haunted my computer with these titles that I bet no one has ever heard of. One reason why I gravitate towards obscure RPGs so much, especially older ones, is that it can feel like visiting an abandoned house. No one is here anymore and hasn't been here for years. It's almost serene in a way, you know? But there's another side to this. Sometimes it can feel creepy. I've been super into eerie stuff lately. I've been binging true crime, delving into internet mysteries, and by gosh have I watched Taxi Driver too many times for me to count. It's not healthy. My top litter box makes me look like the most insufferable toxic male of all time. Playing these games in the late night, sleep deprived, makes it feel even more lonely, but also more immersive. Whenever I play forgotten games from decades ago, I always have to wonder where the developers are now. These things were made by teams of people who have lived whole lives in between the release of the game all the way to me now playing them. I have to wonder what development was like and how popular the game truly was at the time, if at all. I always find it more eerie when a game never got recognized in the first place. It gives off a much different vibe from something that used to be popular but isn't anymore. It feels like it's just been waiting, festering, begging to be discovered. And when I eventually get to them, it feels a bit melancholy, especially if a game reaches me in a special type of way. Eternal Falena on the Super Famicom is one of the best NES RPGs I've ever played, and I want to cry every time I think about it, because my gosh does it deserve better. The game doesn't have to be explicitly cursed as the title says to be talked about, but it does have to give me a specific vibe that has me feeling isolated in a sense. It's more of a vibe thing, and I think you'll understand as I go on. Sit back, viewer, grab a nice snack, and listen to me talk about these weird cursed retro RPGs, preferably on a dark stormy night. We're exploring long forgotten territory, folks. Let's get into it. LoveQuest is a game that I have mentioned a countless amount of times on my channel, and if you want to hear me talk about the actual game itself, visit an older video, such as the Super Famicom RPGs video. The game itself I'd hardly call cursed. It's more of a quirky comedy RPG with really charming art and vulgar humor. It's an RPG where you battle women through flirting and quippy wordplay. However, the background of this game is, well, it is really odd. So LoveQuest is a Super Famicom RPG, but it was originally set to release on the Famicom. They changed development as the Super Famicom market was just a lot larger at the time. It kinda sucked releasing an NES game in 1994. It's cool how fast they made the switch though, since the Super Famicom version released in 1995. For decades, the NES version was lost media, and even now there are only 4 prototypes that are known to still exist, and the only video footage we have of the game even existing is this garbled mess. And we don't really have any way else to experience the game. Forgotten NES RPGs already gave me a really isolating vibe. I mean, a lot of NES games in general had to be relatively minimalistic just due to hardware limitations, which in some cases can make a game feel a bit more eerie than it actually is. With LoveQuest being such an already weird game, it doesn't help that the NES version has this more empty feeling atmosphere. It's definitely a game of its time and almost feels like a weird forgotten time capsule in a way. Something about it is just really unsettling to me in a way that attracts me to it, ironically enough. Lost media in itself can be pretty eerie. The fact that something someone worked on could vanish from the public is just kind of frightening. There's a layer of mystique there that makes your mind start to wonder what it could contain. A huge majority of lost media isn't inherently eerie, it's more of a fear of the unknown if anything. I fear walking to places at night. I know where I live is safe, and in my years of doing it I haven't encountered anything odd, but it's more of the fear of not knowing what's there that irks me, but it's captivating. It's scary, but I still do it because a weird part of me likes the feeling. Coupled with the fact that LoveQuest never got a translation and probably won't get one for a long time, adds an extra layer of mystery. Of course I can use Google Translate and all that, but it's not very reliable. Also, the music is just, oh well, listen to this. Yeah, the whole aesthetic of this recording is reminiscent of some analog horror series about a lost RPG hiding a dark secret. Of course, it's much less interesting than that, but my imagination still runs wild. And also, nobody even knows the actual release version of this game exists, let alone the lost one. I guess I'm spilling my special little secret out to you guys, but you're great. I don't mind sharing my secrets with you. There's so much retro RPG lost media that has been completely lost to time and is condemned to never see the light of day. Monica's Castle is my favorite, such a tragic story of what could have been. Anyway, let's move on to something else, something less lost, I guess. Great Greed is kind of the perfect entry for this. It's a really odd Game Boy RPG with weird as hell enemies and an even weirder narrative. Something about the Game Boy always gets me in regards to RPGs. On the surface, you wouldn't think this handheld would have that many RPGs. I mean, you never hear about them apart from the obvious picks. But my gosh, every now and then I decide to dip my toes in some, and I come out with just a plethora of games I've never even seen mentioned before. There are so many Game Boy RPGs that are completely overlooked for reasons I don't even know. It makes me kinda mad when you try to look for Game Boy RPG recommendations online, and it's the most surface level stuff that everybody knows. Funnily enough, Game Boy RPGs might be some of my favorites ever. They've grown on me a ton over the years. They're a lot less archaic than you'd think, and Great Greed is a perfect example of this. Older RPGs have the reputation of being unnecessarily slow, especially NES and Game Boy RPGs. And while this can be true in a lot of cases, it's not true all the time. And Great Greed has quite a few quality of life features that I appreciate so much. I mean, it has an autosave feature. I have literally never seen a Game Boy game with autosave before. I was floored. Text and battles also move extraordinarily fast. There will be points where the game sort of forces you to grind, but the speed of battles makes it completely okay with me. And I say this as somebody who hates forced grinding. I adore optional grinding though, and it's seamless here as well. The enemies themselves are something out of a fever dream. It has this theme of ghoulish type enemies and stuff you would find in a 6,000-year-old labyrinth infested with ancient diseases. I wouldn't call it dark, but it certainly has an atmosphere that I would like to call unsettling, and it helps that a ton of Game Boy RPGs naturally have this vibe of being unsettling at points, oftentimes unintentionally. As a kid, Super Mario Land felt off to me, and not even because of the graphics or anything. Okay, no, that definitely played a factor actually. But it was also something else. You know, it's really minimalistic. A lot of these Game Boy games are, not by design most of the time. Here, it certainly works in the game's favor, even if I can't tell if it's intentional or not. It's also how I feel about old black and white movies. There is an air of eeriness there that doesn't exist with anything after it. It's not intentional, but they utilize it to a degree where it enhances the final product. Maybe that's why the silent era in 50s had so many iconic horror movies. Game Boy games always felt like the video game equivalent of old black and white movies anyway. The game itself also has a really interesting narrative that is kept rather simple, due to it just being on the Game Boy and also having a bad translation. I'm not one to harp on bad translations for old RPGs because it's par for the course, but holy crap, this was bad. Like the translation it's really bad. All the characters are named random objects and it really throws you off. Some stuff just isn't conveyed well to the player at all. It's one of those games where you can tell that the narrative was watered down by the translation, in fact. Either way, there's some really interesting stuff here. A crab cult that has a monopoly over this town, and a village that frequently changes laws and jails anyone who breaks them. It implements some neat ideas that I've never actually seen in any RPG made before or after this. The village that changes laws is one of the coolest things I've seen in any RPG. It's so creative, and they make sure it doesn't get annoying. I also must say, Great Greed respects your time a lot. It's one of the fastest flowing Game Boy games I've ever played, maybe one of the fastest flowing RPGs actually. Battles go by super quick, and instead of selecting actions through a menu, you create hotkeys that will perform a certain action instantly, so you can have battles be over within a matter of seconds. Yet again, another thing I haven't really seen in any other RPG. I'm pretty shocked this released in 1992, pretty early for the Game Boy's lifespan. Usually Game Boy RPGs this polished come out super late into its life, mid to late 90s. But to be fair, this released around the same time as the second and third FF Legend games, so maybe my expectations are too low for this thing. I actually haven't played as many Game Boy RPGs as I'd like, which sucks, because there's a shocking amount of them. Like I said earlier, I just need to emphasize it even further. You don't really ever hear about them, and the lack of attention they get causes me to believe in this false notion that the system is lacking in RPGs. But when it's not at all, every once in a while I'll discover a game or series of RPGs on the Game Boy and be utterly shocked by not knowing it existed. Magic Knight Rayearth literally has an RPG no one has ever heard of, and I'm itching to talk about it. I need to talk about it, okay? Maybe another time though. As for Great Greed, it's a great game and I enjoyed my time with it a lot. It's got such an odd existence that the bad translation in a sorta effed up way adds to the atmosphere. Dude. Idea no He is the darkest SNES RPG I've ever played. Heck, it might be the darkest RPG I've ever played in general. The game opens on a torture scene of you and your dog. Hint, the dog doesn't make it. That's probably enough to turn you off this game. An even bigger deterrent is the fact that it never got a translation, not even a fan translation. This is probably the most tragic one for me. It's one of the coolest SNES RPGs I've ever seen in a way. The stylization is on point. It is able to convey its personality in a way that is very uncommon in SNES RPGs. The enemy designs are also fantastic. They're creepy in a goofy sort of way. I love horror monsters that have a goofy edge to them. It makes them even scarier for me. It's why I love the Titans in AOT so much. They're goofy as hell but also horrifying. It makes me wonder, are these enemies knowingly malicious and take glee in it, or are they too stupid to realize the gravity of their actions? I'm looking too deep into it, but this is always what I wonder when I encounter something like this. I don't know what's scarier, a dangerous and dumb killing machine, or a malicious predator that takes glee in harming others, knowing full well it's wrong. I watched The Thing not too long ago and I fell in love with it. It's probably the only horror movie that makes my skin crawl, even after multiple rewatches, and I've been searching for something with that vibe ever since. This doesn't even get close, but it gave me those vibes just a little bit, so I'll take it. The setting takes place in this weird post-apocalyptic world full of despair and evil and sadness, and essentially all of the emotions you don't want the world to be full of. I couldn't gather too much since I can't speak Japanese and my methods of translation are very clunky and inefficient, but even with all that, I really enjoyed this. I just have to say that again, the illustrations are absolutely phenomenal. I love the little screen of your character on the side showing his live reaction to the battle taking place, and his appearance changes based on what gear you're wearing. They didn't need to do this, and it shows how much care was put into this thing. It's a cool, fun game, and you should check it out if you can reliably translate it, of course. The Neo Geo Pocket Color is something I always loved but was never actually familiar with. It's one of those things that people love to gawk at but don't actually delve deeper into. As someone that already loves the Game Boy Color aesthetic, this thing blows me away. It also runs much faster, it's actually seamless. This device has quite a few standout games, but a shockingly small amount of RPGs, like minuscule. I'm pretty sure you can count them on one hand actually. It's a piece of hardware I never thought I would ever talk about, apart from maybe a small 5-second mention, but one game caught my eye, Biomotor Unitron. It's, how do I say this? Yeah, it's really fucking good. Just shockingly good, holy crap. First of all, I have to say the art is gorgeous, they make such good use of the color palette. The character sprites are so well made, and the background environments give me a weird sense of nostalgia. I think it's because I've been doing pixel art for about 8 years now. I used to take a lot of inspiration from older games. Mainly because it was a lot easier as someone that wasn't, and let's be honest, still isn't good at picking colors for their art. I made a lot of goofy but really charming RPG battle screens back in the day. I was such a poser because I didn't even play RPGs back then. I guess I've always had an innate attraction to them. It's in my veins. But yeah, the whole aesthetic really brings me back in a comfy way. It was a simpler time. The visual clarity of this also impressed me. In some instances, Game Boy RPGs can be overwhelming at points. Not hard to read or anything, but sometimes it can feel like a slog to go through stuff like menus or certain areas that aren't designed great. Not only is it good here, but they add some nice details that definitely caught me off guard while playing. See, it's a mecha game, and you have power over this robot. You're able to modify it by improving parts or buying new ones. I was completely shocked when I noticed that the parts you buy will appear on the sprite. I thought they'd go the easy way out and have the robot look the same throughout the entire game. But no, my mech has dinosaur legs and it's the best thing ever. A long time ago, these mechs were originally used as tools of war, but in peacetime, they act as companions. They're now used for tournaments and much less deadly endeavors. The story and gameplay doesn't follow a linear format. It deviates from basically every RPG norm you'd expect from an older handheld RPG. Well, except the randomly generated dungeons, they were quite fond of these back then. It follows a dungeon crawler format where you go in and out different areas acquiring resources and gear. You use what you found to upgrade your robot and buy new materials. This is essentially the main gameplay loop, and I am addicted to it. I was really burnt out on video games when I started this, but that dissipated immediately after getting my hands on the game. My favorite thing about this is how odd the enemies are visually. I don't know what type of enemies I'd expect from a mecha game, but it's certainly not whatever this is. They're really odd and some are a little unsettling. But this might just be a SpongeBob on the tiny roller coaster moment on my part. I don't know. The thing about RPGs on these older handhelds is that, again, they tend to seem really minimalistic. This game does such a fantastic job of making the world feel more immersive and full to the point where it hits a weird middle ground. Of course I am fully engaged, but there's still a bit of that feeling of disconnect. Interacting with the characters is one thing that brings it together for me though. A lot of them don't actually add anything functional to the game, but it's cool to meet up with them. The art for their sprites is gorgeous. I love this style, and they managed to make it look so good. Also, there's John Lennog, an alternate universe where he's setting up mecha tournaments instead of being a beetle. Biomotor Unitron has a fun gameplay loop, great art, an engaging battle system, and cool NPCs to talk to. Plus, it's not very long, so it won't cram your backlog with another long-ass RPG you know you'll never get to. It's genuinely so fun, and if you have to play one game in this video, play this one, I beg of you. Oh yeah, and there's also a pseudo-crafting mechanic in this, and I always liked when RPGs had crafting. Not always, it can be pretty BS sometimes, but here it's kept simple, even though I wouldn't exactly call it optional. It adds to the level of customization. I am already so tripped out by Maka Maka right now, and I haven't even talked about the game yet. I could have sworn I wrote the script for this part of the game already, but I can't find it anywhere. I think I'm going insane. And what a game to go insane over. It's super fitting because holy crap, this thing is weird. One of the weirdest RPGs I've ever played. It was never translated, so I had to use my own good old unreliable methods. Maka Maka starts out with these alien creatures that remind me of those weird buff anime ants, proclaiming they want to take over the world. I wrote down in my notes that it starts out all cryptic and odd, and I'm not sure how much of that is due to the language barrier. Despite that, just look at it for yourself. You can already see it's unorthodox. Our parents are turned into these odd, disgusting creatures, and we're tasked with turning them back to normal. In the meantime, I get my butt kicked by multiple random encounters. I should add, this is quite a difficult game, at least the start is. I don't know what the hell these are, but I don't like them. Further in, we sneak onto a plane with this box man. The plane turns out to be infiltrated by the aliens, and we fall from the sky onto this tribal village. We accidentally fulfill a prophecy that says a man will fall from the sky, and we end up marrying the queen. This is not even the first 30 minutes of the game, by the way. It all happens at a lightning speed to the point where you can't process it at all. I didn't get too far into this because navigating it without a translation is just really difficult. I didn't have too much trouble with something like Love Quest, but this is a much harder game than that. Maka Maka has been my white whale for quite a while. I caught a glimpse of it years ago, and it's been in the back of my mind ever since. However, I can never actually find it. I stumbled back onto it for this video, which gave me a great opportunity to show off its existence because I think that's interesting enough on its own. Screenshots of this paint an even weirder picture straight out of a fever dream. It sucks we have no English translation, but that's life sometimes. This game is full of bugs too. I found one myself while playing, and I think I got soft locked at one point. It just adds to the weirdness really. I have such an odd history with Lufia The Legend Returns. Believe it or not, there was once a time where I was not the RPG guy. I know, it's impossible to imagine, but even then, I always had a soft spot for RPGs. I remember first playing Breath of Fire back in middle school and loving it, despite never even getting that far. And this is one of the RPGs I played before what I would call my great RPG awakening. I got this one during peak lockdown, like summer of 2020 period, and I don't remember much of it. All I have is this really shockingly vivid memory of playing it in the car while driving out of town at night. But that's about it. It was also my first introduction to the Lufia series, which I wouldn't become acquainted with until a few years later. That's why I have this weird type of nostalgia towards it, and it left such a good impression. I really don't understand why I didn't play more of it. It's also just another example of Game Boy Color RPGs being way better than you would expect. The art is masterfully done, and I think I can leave it at that. Back in the day playing this, it gave me this odd, empty sort of feeling. Not empty in a bad way, but in a sort of relaxing way. Have you ever had an afternoon where nothing feels real? Maybe you had a huge event the day before, or an unforgettable life experience, and the quietness of the next day causes you to reflect a bit too much, to the point where life feels empty in a serene way. The simple things are much less noticeable. It's such a niche feeling. I've never seen it accurately conveyed or even described. That's how I felt playing this game though. Most Game Boy Color games actually. I wouldn't really call this unsettling or even cursed to the average person playing. For most people, it's a typical good Game Boy Color RPG. But with all that in mind, I think you can get what I'm saying. There's no sense of permanence with this game. Dungeons are randomly generated labyrinths which are actually fun to explore. You can have up to 9 party members in one party. They don't all attack each turn, that'd be ridiculous, but you have the option to pick and choose who does what. Some people take it less seriously as an entry in the Lufia series, but it has a ton of merit. They're able to faithfully carry over the vibe and appeal of the series onto the handheld in a way where I actually prefer it over the first Lufia. I love the little character portraits, they're so charming. Fun fact, I didn't replay Final Fantasy Legend 2 for the video. I usually do replay games, but honestly, I wanted to focus more on my memory with this game, rather than replay and focus solely on the content of the game itself. Credit to BackGroundGaming Longplays for letting me use their footage. You can find more about them in the link in the description. I vividly remember playing and beating this game. It was the summer of sophomore year before I was becoming a junior. I was working on my second ever video, this dumb, really bad Breath of Fire 2 video. We were staying at a beach house on the beaches of South Carolina in this really damn nice neighborhood. I had my computer in the living room with Filmora open on my computer, my old editing software. I had my Steam Deck in the bedroom, and I would come home and play this game every night after a long day of exploring town. It was really fun, and I did actually beat the game over that entire vacation period. I do have to say, this game left such an odd, incomprehensible impression on me that I vividly remember all of that almost 3 years later. Man, that summer was insane. Sorry, I'm gonna go on a tiny little tangent. I was sifting through my camera roll, and gosh, I did so much that summer. A ton of vacations, some of which I don't even remember. I went to Yale for this academic program thing, a wedding, started my YouTube journey. I'm getting all damn sentimental over here. But yeah, I guess this game was smack dab in the middle of that, along with Legend 3, which is another fantastic experience. Legend 2 is just unique in a way that I have yet to see replicated at all. This thing is hard, like, it is hard. Definitively the hardest RPG I've ever played. It doesn't start to get bad until around 2/3 into the game, where at points it'll feel impossible. The way level scaling works in this is akin to a more polished Final Fantasy 2. Instead of having a whole level bar, you have individual level stats that improve depending on what occurs in battle. You get hit enough times, boom, your health increases. You use magic enough, boom, more MP. Typical stuff. One issue I have with Final Fantasy 2 is how unbalanced leveling can be. There's never been a point in that game where it felt capable, even when overleveled. I have played it multiple times, sometimes the correct way and another time cheesing it, and it still felt scuffed and unbalanced. Here, you don't run into those same problems, which is odd to me since they didn't change too much about how stat raises work. Since it's a less open-ended game than FF2, I feel like the progression ends up feeling more natural. Stat raises also don't make the characters stupidly overpowered, and even with some of the highest stats in the game, it can get challenging, it can get brutal. Final Fantasy 2 was more so annoying than it was hard, tons of BS garbage enemies, especially near the end. FF Legend 2 got balls hard, but it never felt unfair, it felt more scary if anything. My final experience with this game occurred on a late night at that beach house. It was dark and quiet outside, the window was open, and the warm breeze was blowing on my face as I traversed labyrinths designed to screw me over. It was, again, actually kind of scary. Never have I felt so in peril playing an RPG before. The endgame dungeons offer no rest, no time to breathe, no hope, just constant insecurity and uncertainty. And you better not get lost because oh boy, it might actually be over for you, and that's not even hyperbole. Everything in this game is scarce, including weapons, which have durability, so you can't spam the strongest stuff every time. I must also say visually, the dungeon designs themselves trip me out, and the music definitely added to the atmosphere. This is one of the best sounding Game Boy RPGs soundtrack wise, it's all so good and sets a perfect atmosphere. The world feels empty, mysterious and isolating, but there's still a lot of beauty to be found within it. There are a ton of unique set pieces that will keep you interested, and the enemy designs are great. It all just makes me so nostalgic, man. Every time I hear a song from this game, I get a pit in my stomach. I sound so passionate about this thing, and I didn't even know I had that in me. If I were you, viewer, I would play it. It's around 11-ish hours, which won't take up too much of your time. If you do play it though, make sure you play consistently because it'd actually be a nightmare to not play for months and pick up where you left off, especially near the end. Anyway, before the video ends, I want to talk about one more game that I found. One that is quite interesting. This will be quick and is basically an honorable mention, as is tradition. What an odd thing right here. Dark Law, Meaning of Death. It released in 1997 as an SNES game, which is remarkably late in its lifespan. You can definitely tell it's a later SNES RPG though. At points it feels more like one of those modern games that tries to recreate the feel of a SNES RPG. It follows you in this kingdom after the Great War and it hits the fan immediately. You meet an old man and not even 15 minutes later he's killed by the Empire, which made me unironically very angry. I was playing this one early in the morning and I was already in a bad mood. Seeing this innocent old man die actually pissed me off a bit. This game definitely focuses a lot on the role-playing aspect of RPGs. Exploring the world and interacting with objects is heavily emphasized. And it doesn't fully follow a traditional RPG progression format. Like Biomotor Unitron, it has a home base of sorts. You go dungeon crawling and come back to recuperate. Battles see you moving characters and strategically placing them around the arena. It follows a more strategy RPG type format without the typical grid you'd see in those. As for a lot of these, the atmosphere is isolating and it's actually quite hard from what I've seen. The colors are really earthy and the narrative has this constant sense of doom encompassing it. It's an RPG I've never heard of and I thought it was interesting. The fact it has a translation is frankly a miracle. What an odd journey. You know, I think it's kinda ironic at what point in my life I played all of these. Over winter, I was isolating myself from all my friends. I was just going through it. I've been a lot more active recently and socially, which gets rid of that isolating feeling I get for a bit. Look at these steps, man. I've been out, okay? So playing these first thing in the morning or right before bed brings on this weird feeling that now only exists when I play these games. Maybe it's because I'm tired when I play them, but it doesn't feel real sometimes. Have you ever woken up from a nap and had a crazy existential crisis? It's why I never take naps, because I always wake up with this feeling of derealization that makes me feel uncomfortable. I sort of get that vibe playing these. It takes me back to a time in my life that doesn't exist anymore and never will. It sort of reminds me that nothing matters and time will consume all. It just started to sink in that my life will never go back to how it was, and these games are really the only remnant of that period of my life. Everything has changed so drastically that I never had any time to process it, and in a weird way, this video helped me reflect on that change a lot. This was a nice experience and oddly relaxing. I hope you enjoyed and maybe felt the same things I felt. Anyway, I'm about to hopefully go get myself a job, so good morning, good evening, good night, and everything in between. Peace out.